Hey there, fellas. Here's what we're up to. As you can plainly see, there is a lot of snow, it is cold outside. In these last 2 days, we've been witnessing how people who have not yet made their way to a tire shop are creating traffic jams. Anyway, right here we have a car, and the tires that are on it are completely and totally appropriate. These are some severely bald summer tires, and there are actually people out there who drive around town on this sort of rubber. We've gotten a few requests to try restoring this sort of tire, and for the purpose, we'll be using whatever we can find inside your typical sort of garage. Let's do this. Now allow me to explain why I just did that. Even though the tires are bald as it is, but the idea was to rub off that stiff outer layer of the tire to soften it up somewhat for what we're about to do. Here I have me a caulk gun, and we want to try using caulk to restore the tires. And now that we've removed the outer layer, I suggest we get to work. So here's where we're at with this, guys. We have applied a thick layer of sealant onto the bald tire. We've made some grooves in it. And we're almost at the point where we start cutting out the tread pattern with a knife. As far as how quickly we get there, who even knows? Won't know until we try. And so let's get started and see where this goes. The cutting process is actually going well, amazingly enough. The caulk is about as dense as the tire compound itself, and at the moment, it would seem like we have a good chance at success with this one. Another idea we have is to try making a few studded tires. The caulk is quite malleable after it's applied. I mean, it's literally liquid. And I reckon that you could stick some studs into it before it cures. We got a bunch of these little studs. We removed them from some tires a while back that were no longer fit for use. This would be a sort of miniature racing stud, I guess. And we should see some awesome results once we stick these into a tire. So let's do just that. Whether they stay put or not, well, let's stick them in and try the tires out. Let's get to it. So look here, we've stuck on those studs, and this is pretty interesting. They're staying in place, I mean, they are moving around. After all, they are pretty tall. They're sticking out pretty far, but hey. We've marked up the tread pattern. This is how we plan to cut it out. But now let's wait until this dries, do some cutting, and go test these makeshift studded tires. So this is what the tires look like after the restoration. We've cut out the tread, and honestly, the pattern looks pretty aggressive. So here's the plan. These studded tires have to be tested to see how they grip, how they behave, how much stress they can tolerate, how fast the studs start to evacuate, and just overall to see how they drive on snow and ice. The ones we made without the studs, well, with those we want to conduct some durability testing. See how wear-resistant they are, and whether you can even drive on this sort of tire. Will the caulk keep it together or will it not? It might start coming off right away, but maybe not. Maybe it'll be more resistant to wear than a regular compound. We'll find out in the testing. I am super curious, so let's get to that testing phase already. We can begin the experiments without even leaving home base. As you might remember, we got a pretty steep incline right here leading up to the gate. And so let's see how the car on its standard tires is able to, the fronts are standard, but here on one side the tire is so bad that you cannot drive on it. It is literally bald. The other one is more or less alright, even got a few studs left. But we can try them out right here and now, so let's go. And the testing begins. I've started the car, into gear, and here we go. We are moving. Will it make it out? I have a feeling it's gonna have a hard time. And I was absolutely correct. The wheels are rotating forward, but the car is rolling back. Power! It is trying, but I'm tensing up in here. I've heard people say that those who drive big cars dry the pavement, and I guess that's what's going on in this instance. That's enough, I think. We still gotta test those tires. Restored tires. Okay, so the studded tires that we restored are in place. It's all looking good, let's try them out. No need to rush. Just taking it easy. Let's see if it makes it up. I am very curious. I'll avoid my old tracks, where I've made some holes. Let's see. I don't think they're even slipping. That is definitely a win. With no trouble at all. But let's take this up a notch. Try setting off while on the hill. Doesn't even care. See that? It drives with utter ease. Not giving it too much gas. This turned out excellent. The studs do a terrific job. The wheels weren't slipping. Just drove right up without any issues. This is all rather interesting. But then, this was actually to be expected. These tires turned out fantastic. They are just lovely. Did you see how easy it got up the hill? As long as you're not too pedal happy. Okay, time for our next experiment. We're out on this lot. Over there we placed a wheel. And while the car is still running those tires that barely have any life in them, let's try accelerating to that wheel to see at what speed the car will be traveling once I get there. Curious to see how they do. And afterwards we'll try the tires that we've restored. Let's go. Let's see what speed we can get up to. $42. A mere 42 kilometers an hour. So if 40 is the fastest it could go, I suggest we accelerate to 40 kilometers an hour and try braking once we get to the wheel. I'll leave the systems on, if they even work. And let's check the braking distance. Here we go. Stop. I have stopped. And how far have I traveled given my speed? 40 kilometers an hour. Let's call it 17 meters for good measure. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it really is. From a speed of 40 kilometers an hour at least. But let's try fitting the tires that we've repaired and see what sort of results they yield. Let's get to it. Okay, we've got the studded tires on, let's try accelerating. Here we go. They're actually doing pretty well. That's 50. Oh, right, I also gotta stop. 50 kilometers an hour, very nice. On the bald tires, I only got up to 40, but the studded tires bumped the speed up to 50. The thing is that I got up to 42 the first time, but this time it was 50. Without even going wide open to minimize slip. But then they weren't really slipping anyway, so... But the cars become noticeably quicker. Sitting inside the car, you could feel that the driven wheels had plenty of grip. It's sort of confidence-inspiring. You get this sort of sense of calm driving around. You're at ease. But that covers the acceleration aspect, and the results were to be expected. These are some aggressive studs. Of course they'll grip on snow and ice. But let's see what happens under braking. I'll accelerate to 40 again, and slam on the brakes once I get to the wheel. Let's see what happens. I get on throttle and I can feel that it's much more confident. Felt much quicker to get to a stop. Of course, you can even tell just by looking. I felt how the car was braking with the seat of my pants. How much is that, 15? 16. 16 meters. So with the tires we modified installed in the rear, and with regular old ones up front, which do have some decent tread, but anyway. We fitted the restored tires in the rear. The fronts don't have any studs in them, but the stopping distance from 40 kilometers an hour was just 16 meters. So from that speed we've already shed 1 meter, and if we'd have been running all 4 studded tires, I reckon it would have stopped in just 10 meters, do you agree? So the tires that we restored using the sealant, they actually work. And that is a good thing. But now we get to the interesting part, which is testing its wear resistance. I am very curious, so let's look into it. Let's give this a try. As for what we can do, why not a bit of sideways? We have some grip. Oh, they are doing a fine job propelling the car. Those are some mighty studs. I can even hear them clawing at the pavement. Not bad. But now I'd like to see how they held up. What do we got? Oh dear. Look at that. I'm trying to feel some studs with the palm of my hand, but I can't. But on this side, there are actually some left. Not all of them. And I am, removing some of them even when swiping the tire with my hand. But there are still quite a few of them sticking out. And they're sitting in there tightly. The ones that are popping out, look at how this one was worn down by the pavement. Now, a lot of people assume that the entire stud is made out of hard alloy. But no, as a matter of fact, it's just the tip. The rest of it is made of something like aluminum or duralumin. So these studs are evacuating. I suggest we try doing a burnout while standing in place. See how they're able to hold up. Look at that, they won't allow the car to stand in place. They're pushing it forward. There we go. The caulk does not smell nice at all. Somebody put some regular tires back on, please. Okay, so they've gotten pretty warm, but you don't have that effect like, when you rub regular tires, they get sticky when they're hot. Not the case with the caulk. That's quite an interesting difference. But it's not like there are chunks flying off. On this side, the material is actually quite wear-resistant. Like, it is very consistent. These are holding up pretty well. Now, obviously, all of the studs are gone at this point, but the layer of sealant that we applied is on there tight. It's not separating from the tire, which is what we were worried would happen. That chunks would come flying off, but no. The adhesion is very good, and these are not wearing down fast at all. Okay, so we're back at base, we've removed the wheels, and this is a pretty interesting picture. On these two tires, the tread layer that was made of sealant was actually separating, and in a sort of chaotic way. No idea why that's the case. As for the rear wheels, strangely enough, even though they were studded, we did burnouts. They were under some tremendous stress, but they were able to keep it together. And the sealant did try separating, but it's still on there mostly, which is pretty amazing. Where does that leave us then? Well, the quality and composition of the sealant has a serious effect on the durability of this layer. Overall, I'd say this worked rather well. Yeah, this is very much a working recipe. And so that does it for this experiment. Try it out if you don't believe us, but don't forget to properly prepare the tire before you apply the caulk. And that's it for this video, catch you guys later.